Joining me now in Amsterdam, Gavin Thompson from Wood Mackenzie. Gavin, thank you very much for your time. Look, there's so much chatter here about China, this great powerhouse. I mean, how do you see it changing, evolving, or maybe not in the future? What's your assessment?
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason we're here, my team have come over from Asia, is because of China. We want to talk about China. And as we put it yesterday, it's simply too big to ignore. So a phenomenal growth in gas demand over the last 2 or 3 years, and even more phenomenal growth in LNG imports through that period. We're going through a little bit of a slowdown in growth right now. This is not a fundamental issue. It's really about a managed slowdown in demand growth in order to better manage the availability of supply and pricing. We still see a lot of growth in the Chinese market. So clearly, we're in Europe talking about China because China is having a greater and greater impact on the global gas and LNG market, supply, setting future price, and really being a major consumer of gas in the future.
So given that we are standing here now at sort of like a third of the way through the year, and if you turn on the TV, you turn on any news channel, and it's dominated by American-China trade war. So what's your assessment there? And I'm not going to ask you how that's going to pan out, because I think that's almost crystal ball stuff. But how do you look at that?
Yeah, it's clearly not something which certain players in the global gas and LNG industry want to see, and that's no surprise. That would be the US projects in particular. And Monday's announcement by China of an increase in the retaliatory tariff to 25% on US LNG. We just don't know how that's going to play out. They're clearly not welcomed by US projects. But look at what China has been doing over the past 6 to 12 months. Backing in for equity in Arctic 2 in Russia, underpinning projects like Mozambique LNG, investing in Canadian LNG through LNG Canada, and continuing to push new supply projects forward. So whilst the US-China trade issue is significant, it's certainly not particularly welcomed by the US exporters. The Chinese market continues to grow, and that push towards cleaner energy, bluer skies, really something which we see as one-way traffic. So there's no U-turn in government policy on that, even if, as we expect, gas prices start to recover and look a bit stronger through 21, 22. Okay,
well, let's talk about decarbonising. Let's talk about that whole area there. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where you want to start. I mean, but let's have an overview. Do you think the industry is doing enough? Do you think they've actually grasped the fact that they have to?
I think they do. And look at the big players, look at the big gas producers, and talking about the majors, moving from not only decarbonisation or carbon minimisation through investment, more investment in gas, for example, right through to trying to grow their renewables businesses, investing in things like battery and storage to diversify portfolios. So I think the industry is moving in the right direction. Some are faster than others, some are more ahead than others. Europe, we have a lot of policy support for that. In Europe, we also have European shareholders and investors pushing European companies in that direction. Maybe we see a bit less of that in the US so far. But as I said, I think we're moving in that direction. And if to come back to China, decarbonisation and clean skies are not the same question in China. So particulate pollution, the famous grey, smoggy scenes that you see in Chinese cities, it's not a carbon issue. But we see the government putting this together. So blue sky policies and achievable targets around lowering carbon emissions on a per unit of energy basis. And again, it's not the same journey as European countries and European companies, but we think that we are moving in that direction, and the pace is accelerating.
I was going to say, it is all maybe moving in one direction, but it is going to be about the pace. Yeah. It's accelerating, but is it accelerating quickly enough?
Again, it's not a linear story. So in some areas of the world, in some areas of the economies, we're seeing that pace really picking up and moving faster forwards. In other markets, it's less so. There's still going to be more coal capacity getting built, places like India, for example. The need for low-cost energy doesn't go away, particularly in non-OECD developing economies. And so those countries are really trying to balance a move towards reducing carbon.
So, I mean, given that, I mean, are we looking maybe to some parts of industry should be doing more to support them in that, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And I think technology is key to that. When we're looking at developing economies, affordability of energy is a really critical question. Nobody is denying that we want to have more energy use in developing economies, but it needs to be affordable and it needs to be sustainable. So what technology can the big European, US companies bring to these markets? And if you think about it, with the big energy companies here in Europe, they're probably the natural companies to be pushing this forward. Big capital expenditure budgets, technically global leaders, and with lots of very smart people. And so, I think as we look at their portfolios, which become more diverse, it's not simply about traditional oil and gas. Can those technologies be applied into other markets? And I think they probably can.
We'll just have to see how that one pans out. Gavin, for the moment, thank you very much for talking to us. Thank you.